I have a question first. Do these pants make me look fat? No. Guys, those of you who have significant others, if your significant other asks this question, do these jeans make me look fat? What should you say?
That's a trap.
Jeffrey? Do you think you would get away with that very long? I didn't think so. If your significant other asked, do these jeans make me look fat, what would you say? No. Of course not. Oh, no, dear. And then if your significant other, no, really, do they make me look fat? What would be your response? Why do you ask? You're in trouble if you bring that up. And if they ask a third time, and you, in your mind, go, well, maybe just a scooch, would that be a good response? No. You would find ways to say an affirming thing to that person, right? Now, when I came to our congregation, this is how it works. So I'm told this is where you're going, and the folks here, a small group called SPRC's Staff Parish Relations Committee, they're told this is who you're getting. And so, and the district superintendent is there to broker this meeting, which is about an hour. So SBR, they're all waiting, and they know that their new pastor is coming, and the district superintendent says, here's your new pastor, and you can ask this person anything you want to, but this is who you're getting. And then they come back, the district superintendent comes back and says, you don't get to ask as many questions, but this is where you're going. And so somehow we have an arranged marriage, right? Well, at the end of during that conversation, and it was clear that I was coming, one of the questions was this: what question are we missing? What question should we have asked you? And I said this: well, you know what, friends, you are going to, for the next several months, be asked, what is this person like? And you can talk about our conversation, but one of the things that you're going to need to tell is that he is a big guy. And because I remember asking about one of my professors in college. I didn't know who the professor was before the first day of class, and he wasn't in the class yet. I said, well, who is this guy? And they said, do you see that corner over there? He'll take up the biggest share. And I immediately understood what they meant without them having to say that he's fat. But I know that I'm fat. And so I said to the SPR, you need to let them know that I'm overweight a lot. Because they need to know that's when the guy walks in. Because I've seen some of expressions when you go into a restaurant and they don't expect to see a size of my size. This is what you get. And then all of a sudden they go to the buffet quick before he gets there. When I go into the daycare, there are a couple of kids who will come up and rub my belly and say, you're fat. And I say, yes. But I also know that that's not a good thing to tell everybody. You don't go up to everybody in the grocery store and say, those jeans, they're not looking good on you. Because someone may go, whop, to you, even if you think it's the truth. Now, the truth is, I'm fat. But we've learned to have truthiness. When I asked, do these pants make me look fat? You laughed because it was the best way that you could respond. You could have, some of you were saying different things in your head, and that's okay. Some of you have already grown accustomed to me, and so it doesn't look that way anymore, or you have to think twice about it. Some of you are going, no, it's not the pants at all. You just are. And it's okay to say those things to me, because I asked you about it. But the truthiness stuff comes along. For instance, I'm going to pick on some of the kids. So they come home, and I don't think they don't get report cards that they bring home anymore, do they? It's sent to them. They get to bring them physically home. Oh, wonderful. And so the parents could go, well, how did you do? And if your kid goes, I did a lot better than that one did, what they are doing is engaging you in a truthiness conversation. They don't want to tell you what they got. They want to make sure that you understand that they did better than somebody else, which is, quote, true, right? But that's not what you asked. And our culture is so good at delving into truthiness. You see it all the time. It doesn't make any difference whether it's the news. It doesn't make any difference whether it's in an education setting. A work setting, we do truthiness. But when someone asks you a question and they really want that particular answer, they have to be ongoing and direct to come to the truth. And that's where we're here today. We don't get to read this part of Scripture very often and get to talk more about it. Usually, this part of Scripture is read at a Maundy, Thursday service or a Good Friday service. And so there's a limited folks who are able to attend those worship services, and often we don't talk too much about that. So I want to delve into who this guy Pilate is and what Jesus is saying. So before we get to chapter 19, we're going to dial back a chapter or so and let you know what's going on. So Jesus has made the church mad. The church being, you hear them when you read the Bible. Some of you are reading the New Testament in 90 days. And so this is the fourth time that we've gotten to this kind of passage. But this is what Jesus has done. He's made the church officials mad. You'll hear them as Sadducees and Pharisees or even zealots. Because he has a lot of people following him and looking at him as a leader. Because he's done these healings, and most of all, because whenever the Pharisees or Sadducees ask him questions, he always trips them up with an answer. And so they are upset. Now, they're upset not just because Jesus makes them look more foolish. There's a lot more at stake than that. You see, if Jesus really is the Messiah, then that means that their role as Sadducees and Pharisees and zealots are going to come to an end as they understood it. Because when Jesus comes, or the Messiah comes, everything is going to change. And they didn't want everything to change. You see, they liked their positions. They liked walking around and making sure that everybody knew who they were and that they paid them good taxes. And so they were not interested in having any Messiah really come. But this Jesus was even worse because he's poor, he's not demanding anything, he's not coming off as a political figure, he's not engaging them like he wants them, like they want him to engage him. So they're got to figure out a way to get rid of Jesus. And they want to do it permanently. Well, it just so happens that one of Jesus' followers, Judas, decides that for whatever reason, that he is going to betray Jesus to this group of people to let them know where he would be at a place that's more private so that they could get him. Now, they want a private place because the Jewish officials are going, he is so popular that if we arrest him in the midst of all that, they will get mad at us. We don't want that. So we need to do it in a private way. We need to get rid of him privately. But we still need to do it in a public way because in order for us to get rid of him, we just can't let him go away someplace. We got to make sure that everybody knows he's dead. So Judas betrays him. He's in the Mount of Olives, and he goes, a temple guard come and take him away, and they take him back to the temple. Now, this is night, like midnight, 2 o'clock in the morning kind of time. So there is a church law that says that there can be no trial held at night. But they don't care. They're going to hold the trial. Church law says that the accused will have somebody from the church to be able to stand up for them, a lawyer. But there's nobody who's standing up for Jesus. The church law says that they have to have witnesses in order to come forward. They did have witnesses, but these witnesses, as we know from Scripture, don't agree. But they don't care. They just keep asking more people in order to try to find a way to get rid of Jesus. They break in all about 15 Jewish laws of the church. And finally, they come to the feeling that Jesus is blaspheming, saying that he is the Son of God. They tear their robes, which is a sign of distress, and they lower Jesus down into a pit because they know they can't really do anything until morning. Now, when morning comes, they get him up out of the pit. They have a quick little trial, say that he's guilty, and now what they want to do is haul him off to Pilate. The reason they want to take him to Pilate is because they don't want to have the guilt on their own hands. You see, they're good church people, and they know what the truth is, but they want to do this in a nice political fashion to keep them from, quote, guilt. So they go off to Pilate. Now, Pilate, you need to know about Pilate. He's not Jewish, but he's been appointed to be, in essence, a governor over this whole region of Judea. Now, he is appointed by a guy named Sejanus. I forget his first name, Lucius Sejanus. Now, Lucius Sejanus is the right-hand man. We'll call him a vice president, a vice emperor, all right? Tiberius is the emperor of all Rome. So the whole Roman Empire is under Tiberius's jurisdiction. But Tiberius has decided that instead of doing all this work himself, that he would rather go to the island of Capri. So he gets all kinds of folks, and he goes off to the island of Capri, but there still has to be somebody who's going to rule in his absence. So he decides that the best person to do that is this Lucius Sejanus. Now, Sejanus is a crafty one as well. Sejanus has basically made any political moves that he can, as well as some other kinds of moves, in order to become Tiberius's right-hand man. One of the things that Sejanus does is, because Tiberius has a son, and that would be the most likely person who would be his right-hand man. So Sejanus goes, okay, well, I need to get rid of this son, but I can't do it in such a way that it looks like I'm the one getting rid of him. So what he does is he slowly poisons the emperor's son. And he has some help. He has the son's mother help as well. So once, Brucius is his name, once he's dead, Sejanus then becomes the right-hand man. Tiberius goes off to Capri, and Sejanus has had some help with all his dastardly duties in order to become where he is. And so now he's beginning to pay back the favors, and one of those favors is to his wonderful friend Pilate. So Pilate gets assigned to be a governor of Judea. Now Pilate would much rather be in Rome. Everybody wants to be in Rome. But this isn't so bad. There is a place in Judea on the Mediterranean Sea called Caesarea. Now, Caesarea is named after the Caesar, and it's made to look like Rome as much as possible. So I want you to think of this really metropolitan kind of area where everything is acting like it's as if in Rome, and that's where Pilate is headquartered at. He is in Caesarea on the Mediterranean Sea enjoying life. Now, the Jews who live in Judea and therefore Jerusalem, Rome is interested in keeping peace all the time. And so they're usually saying, okay, well, whoever's living there, we'll let them abide by most of their laws. I mean, there are times when we're going to have to interfere. As long as they're paying their taxes, we'll be okay. Pilate, you make sure that we get the money. So that's Pilate's role. But sometimes these Jews get out of hand. And sometimes somebody likes to exert their authority. Has anyone worked in a fast food restaurant before? Anybody? Anybody who worked in a fast food restaurant when you were young and there was a person who has 2 years older than you and they acted like they were the king of the universe? Yes. I want you to think of Pilate for a moment. Sweep that up. It's not my job. You sweep it up anyway. So Pilate does this. He says, well, I want these Jews to make sure they know who I am. So he sends his whole army in, and the army has these shields that have graven images of Caesar on there. Well, the Jews cannot worship anything with a graven image, right? That's one of the commandments. You all know that, right? Say yes. Good night. All right, that's next. No, I can't do it next week. 2 weeks from now, we have to do a review of the 10 Commandments. All right, so no graven images. And so they basically riot. Well, Pilate says, I'm not going to put up with this. So he makes this box for himself, and he puts him, and he basically just dares the Jew to come and say that they aren't going to bow down to this graven image. And he's got his whole army before them ready to come down on the Jews. So he figured the Jews would be afraid enough of my army that they will do what I say for them to do. But this is what they did instead. They said this: we would rather that you slay our necks than we would bow down to any graven image. Well, that ticked Pilate off. He didn't do it then. He waits for a few days, and then he kills a bunch over there. Now, remember, Tiberius, the emperor of all Rome, is in Isle of Capri. And he's thinking everything is being taken care of. But all of a sudden, he hears from these Jews, hey, Pilate's making a lot of noise for us. And so he sends word back, well, what's going on? He'll go to Sejanus first. Well, Sejanus, if it happens to be that Sejanus' secret gets out of the bag about how he killed Tiberius' son. So Tiberius has Sejanus killed. Now that was Pilate's only ally. So Pilate is now going, dang, these Jews have the upper hand, even though I don't want to tell them that. But I could get out of here. I mean, the emperor could have my neck. I'm supposed to keep peace here. And so Jesus comes. Now Pilate asks Jesus this simple question: what is truth? What is truth? Now, I invite you to read the scripture again and see what Jesus' response is. Because I think you'll find it interesting. But Pilate is trying to get Jesus to say something so that he could save Jesus' skin. And because Pilate knows that Jesus is not guilty. He knows that all these Jewish folks out here, the leaders of the church, all they really want is for them to have political power within their own church. And Pilate couldn't give a whistle about that. So he wants Jesus, he goes, work with me, Jesus, work with me. Work with me. Don't you realize that I have the power to either free you or to crucify you? And Jesus says this: you have no power other than what the power that was given to you by God. That confuses Pilate. He's used to having somebody who will say, well, yeah, I kind of want to save my own skin. Let's do this, or I can do that, or we can bargain. We can make this work. We can compromise. But there is no compromise to the truth. There is no compromise to the truth. Because if there's a compromise, then it's not true. Truth is true no matter what you believe, no matter what your opinion, no matter what your experience may tell you. True is always true. And Pilate is used to having things work his way. He says that he could manipulate the truth. Friends, I'm telling you that if it's the truth, you cannot manipulate it. God is truth. Pilate does everything that he can to try to get Jesus off the hook. Jesus won't work with him. And all of a sudden, the Jewish officials out there decide to change his accusation from blasphemy to treason. So this is what they're saying. Before they were saying, in our law, you can't do that because nobody can just call themselves God. But now they say, wait a minute. Let's do it this way. You can't say that because if he says he's the king of the world, then you trump Caesar. And you can't trump Caesar. So they change it from blasphemy to treason. And now Pilate is really stuck. Because nobody can be king over Caesar. And that's what these Jews will go to Tiberius with. They have now gained the upper hand. And so Pilate says, I wash my hands of this. I want nothing to do with that. Most of you know the Apostles' Creed. The Apostles' Creed where it says, and he suffered under Pontius Pilate, was crucified, died, and was buried. We remember Pontius Pilate as the one who killed Jesus. Not the centurion guards, not even the Jewish churchy people, but Pilate. God's truth prevails. Now, friends, you are going to have truthiness all around you all the time. And sometimes you need to use that. I would not recommend, gentlemen, for you to say you don't look good in those jeans. There are times when you won't be able to remain silent either. That you will need to say something and that you believe to be true, have some element of truth. Jesus at times was silent as well. But I want you to always remember that God's truth never fails. For some 2,000 years, we've been sitting in congregations all over the world pronouncing that God is God and Jesus is Lord. And that's because truth never fails.